Any attempt to build a successful business or position yourself to build wealth, it becomes much easier when you have a strong personal brand. Why? A strong personal brand gets you a foot in the door. It gets you a seat at the table. It enhances your visibility and positions you to be heard. The icing on the cake is that a strong personal brand enables you to realize your business financial objectives. How does one attempts to build and master a strong personal brand? Now, one of the first things that you want to do when you're attempting to build a strong personal brand is to become an HVP, a high value proposition. You want to position yourself to become this high value proposition, not only in theory, all right? You may be having the intellect, but it's also important to position yourself as that HVP to apply that intellect to achieve the high rewards, the measurable results, the predictable outcome with the highest degree of accuracy in business. In attempting to position yourself to become this high value proposition, there's first, you must nurture a strong personal image. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can nurture a strong personal image. For example, you can position yourself to be a capital mitigation specialist, a private equity investor, a sales and marketing specialist, or you can position yourself to become a global influencer. You can nurture yourself to become a high value proposition in all of these areas. What I want to do, I want to pause a bit and I want us to take a deeper look in terms of what it would look like for you to become a high value proposition in the context of a capital mitigation specialist. There are four things that makes a capital mitigation specialist stands out. One, they understand capital markets. Two, they understand how to access capital markets. Three, they understand how to leverage capital. And four, they understand how to mitigate financial instruments. Now, this is an important body of knowledge because as a rising star or star in business, this body of knowledge really positions you to understand how to better achieve your business financial objectives. For example, at the first point, which is understanding capital markets, it's important to recognize that there are multiple financial instruments and they are not created equal. For example, there is debt, but then there's equity, and debt operates totally different from equity capital. For example, as a rising star in business, when you take a debt, it is important for you to recognize that that debt is subject to PITI, principal and interest, tax and insurance. It also means that you have monthly debt obligation. Now, as a rising star in business, sometimes this poses a challenge to you because the business generate capital. You want to deploy capital in a way to optimize the business profitability. But with your monthly debt obligation, it undermines that process at least a little. Now with equity capital operates at a different level. For example, you can make a conscious decision with your equity partner that you're going to remit dividends on a quarterly basis, half yearly, or on an annual basis. So what that simply means is that instead of you making monthly payments on the debt that you have accrued, you're now able to take that debt, consolidate that debt, and flip that debt into income activities for the growth of that business. The average person may not be aware of this information, but think about this. This is going to give you tremendous leverage to up-level your business. But then there's many other financial instruments that you need to understand. Credit and DSCR. Let's look at another example. As a rising star in business, you are saying that I need access to capital, and you just don't know how to access capital. But one, when you understand 0% APR funding, that gives you leverage because in the US, you're just leveraging your FICO and your SSN, and it sets you up to access that much needed capital. Here is where the capital mitigation specialist comes into play because they have this body of knowledge, and in sitting with you as a high value proposition, they are providing you with this body of knowledge so you can make better, smarter, wiser business decisions. Now, here is where you access the capital as a real estate investor. 0% APR, no collateral, and that's just the beginning, because from this point, they then move you over to DSCR. And the DSCR now come in and they fund your project up to 85% of the project cost. The average person would not have this body of knowledge. And this is what a high value proposition looks like, because when the HVP come in to your place of business, they're coming with this body of knowledge to help you to make better, smarter, wiser business decisions. In the context of a capital market specialist, a capital mitigation specialist, they're coming with more than this. They're coming with more than just that knowledge of understanding the capital market mix and how to leverage the capital market mix to their clients' advantage. They're also coming with a clear understanding in terms of how to access the capital market mix. Now think about this. They're not attempting to access capital based on a theory. They're attempting to access or help you to access capital based on a strong ecosystems that we have built out. Now, over weeks and months and years, they have built out relationships with the banking sector. So they understand exactly what the financial institutions are looking for. They understand those pre-qualification criteria. So in positioning you to now access capital, they're able to do that in the shortest possible time because they understand pre-qualification criteria. They know how to help you to build a healthy profile so you're more fundable and to move much faster along that process. Is that a high value proposition? And I'm saying to you that you stand a much better chance to be successful in whatever you're doing when you position yourself to become an HVP, a high value proposition. We looked at two concepts here of what it really takes to be that HVP, that high value proposition. In the context of capital mitigation specialists, you understand financial instruments, you understand how to access, and you also now understand how to leverage. You see, one of the things that we see is that very often rising stars in business know that you need capital to move your vision forward. But what happens when you access capital? You deploy that capital the wrong way, all right? You deploy that capital in a way that makes it a liability. And then you start to be stressed out and you start to get sleepless nights because you have mismanaged the fund. A capital mitigation specialist by your side as a HVP, a high value proposition, they're going to really sit with you and really help you to understand that before you leverage that capital, you need to understand how to leverage it. Who's the ideal client? What are their specific needs? Do they have the ability to pay, the willingness to pay? Is this the ideal market to be looking at? You cannot afford to make an emotional decision when you are deploying OPM, other people's money. You want to ensure that you're driven by data here. So the ability to leverage capital, deploy capital the right way is heavily influenced by the data that you're collecting, that the data that you're leveraging, that the data that you're mitigating. You need to have this body of knowledge. So you can build a strong personal brand, a strong personal image that represents a capital market specialist. So this is what it would look like. The expert comes in with a body of knowledge to help you to make better, smarter, wiser decision on your business scale-up process and in your efforts to build wealth. The last concept that I'm going to share on this point is that in the context of a capital mitigation specialist as a high value proposition to help you to move your business forward, to help you to position yourself to build wealth, they're also coming with the knowledge to help you to mitigate debt. Now, one of the things that I see often happen is that many rising stars who are now attempting to access capital, very often you say that the cost of capital is high. Now, you may be right in that context, but it's important for you to recognize that you have tremendous influence over the cost that you are paying for capital. But of course, if you don't understand capital mitigation, debt mitigation, this body of knowledge will simply fly over your head. And here is where your high value proposition, your HVP in the context of capital market mitigation comes in with this body of knowledge and they say, okay, this is the life cycle of your debt. This is the cost that you're paying for this debt over the life cycle. These are things that we can do to mitigate this debt portfolio. And by simply doing this, they're able to reduce the cost of capital in some cases by over 50%. So imagine that over the life cycle of your debt, you took $100 million, and over the life cycle of that debt, you're paying back $150 million in interest, in APR. Capital mitigation specialists may be able to cut that in half. So guess what? You're now able to save $75 million on that debt portfolio, capital mitigation. That savings alone is enough to make a few persons millionaires. So this is how you can position yourself to build a high value proposition, HVP. At Global Capital Inc., and the partners that we have built out around the United States of America, this is part of what we're offering for you. This is probably just a small element of what we can offer to you because we're able to help you to access capital in all 50 states. We are able to help you to predetermine the best financial instruments that is best for you based on the stage that you are in your business. We are able to help you to access those capitals in a very short period of time. And we are working with our community and we are helping them to access millions of dollars to go into their real estate portfolio as they position themselves to increase their value. The HVP, they are able to work with you to help you to best leverage that capital. Because very often we get a call when persons have leverage and then they leverage it the wrong way. Why not think through all of these things long before it happens so you can spare yourself that stress, you can spare yourself that sleepless nights because you have a HVP that a strong personal brand on yourself to help you to make better, smarter, wiser business decisions. What we and our international partners also do is to provide you with that support to mitigate, reduce the cost of capital because it is something that you have control over. Now I'm going to do a quick recap. I begin this program by simply saying that any attempt to build a successful business or position yourself to build wealth, it is much easier achieved when you have a strong personal brand. To have a strong personal brand, it first means that you must become an HVP, a high value proposition. And to become a high value proposition, it means that you must nurture a strong personal brand. And I went on to say that you can nurture a strong personal brand in many different ways. One, you can become a capital mitigation specialist, you can become a private equity investor, you can become a sales and marketing specialist, you can become a global influencer. All of these are areas that you can position yourself to build a strong personal image. And what we did in today's exercise, we examined what it would look like when you commit your time, talent, and resources to build a strong personal brand, a strong personal image in the context of a capital mitigation specialist. And I've shown that when you commit that time to really build out yourself as a capital mitigation specialist, you definitely become an HVP, a high value proposition, because every rising star in business that is struggling to access capital, to leverage capital, to mitigate, financial instruments, they can now turn to you. And that is part of what we provide at Global Capital Inc., 10X Branding and Marketing LLC, and in collaboration with our international partners across all 50 states in the U.S. Be blessed. And remember to reach out to us. We're looking forward to talking with you. We welcome you into our community to really provide this body of knowledge that can help to push you forward faster in realizing your business financial objective and positioning you to build wealth. Be blessed and see you on the inside.